back when I was a singer, songwriter, playing a country music band type person, the way that a show would work was you'd show up and there would be a engineer, and you'd have a sound check most of the time. Everybody would send a signal to the board and that person would mix it all together and make it sound great. And then I took a break from music, and when I came back, I was making stuff like this, which is different than what I was doing before. And I remember the first time I played live, I showed up and what I was given was a folding table and one speaker, I think. And I learned very quickly that in this game, you are in the best shape possible if you retain as much control on that folding table over the sound coming out of those speakers as possible. And so that's what I've done, but there's been this hole in my game in the end of chain device category. Basically, something at the end of the mixer, my little mixer that I've got off to the side here, to control dynamics and to add sweetness. And that is going to be the Golden Master by Endorphins from here on out. And I'll tell you why, or I'll just let you listen to why, because it can take a song that sounds like this, and for your audience, make it sound like this. And give you additional fun performance tools like this. Okay, so what is Golden Master? It's an adaptation of Endorphin's Eurorack module by the same name, and it's essentially a combination of 3 different processing tool chains: equalizer, compressor, and some mid-side stuff, which is really, really cool. I have really wanted a mid-side processor in the desktop pedal world for a long time. I'm so happy that one exists now. So maybe what would be best for us to do is just take these one at a time. And I'm going to be demonstrating the device the way that I plan to use it and the way that I've been using it, which is, like I said, at the end of the chain. It's actually sitting after my mixer. And this is another cool thing about Golden Master. So I'm coming out from my mixer, these unbalanced cables, and it's actually acting as a direct box too, converting the signal to balanced output and going essentially like straight into the sound system, which is my sound card. There is no processing happening in the computer. This is all happening live. In fact, let me just zoom out of like perfectly manicured YouTube world and show you. We've got a Pulsar 23 here on the left. This is all being sequenced by the Circlon. And then we've got the Endorphins Ghost here on effects duty. Everything's being mixed by this little Mackie mixer. And then the 2 synths that are playing, one's the Buchla Music Easel, the 208C. And then down here on the floor, because I'm fresh out of table space, is the Moog Sub 25. There is some tape echo happening. It's a lot of really fun, wonderful stuff. And it would be sad for it to sound, more like this, less like this. Okay, so that's the setup here at the show we're playing together. Thanks for coming. Let's jump into the Golden Master here and maybe start with, here's what we can do. We're going to disable the compressor. All right, so the dynamics stuff is not happening anymore. And I just want to show you the equalizer. So at noon, everything is at 0 dB. It's asymmetric. You can cut 20 decibels of gain from the low, mid, or high band. Forgot to mention, this is a multi-band device. So all 3 of these processes can be applied to each band individually, which is rockin'. So like the low, You can take it all the way out, boost it. Let's do that one. The crossover is, I believe, at about 300 hertz for the mids. For the sake of fun, let's just scoop them out a little bit. And then highs. I think I read that this is 3K on the crossover here. But go read the manual. See if I'm right or wrong, and no matter whether I am or not, you'll learn something. All right, so that's sounding good on the EQ. Let's switch to the compressor and hold each band to subject it to compression. And then we'll just zero everything out so that we can play here. Now, the manual describes the counterclockwise throw of the knob as gentle compression, and then normal compression in the middle, and then heavy compression on the clockwise side. So I think what I'm gonna do here is hit the low end a little bit harder, let the mids breathe, and then hit the hi-hats, which is kind of the only thing hanging out on the upper end of the spectrum, a little bit harder as well. Now, in the middle here, we have a global threshold knob that lets you control the threshold of all three together. So as we roll this back, you can hear it working. I'm gonna leave it right there. Hey, while we're on the top row, let's talk about these two knobs. This is input gain, which you can crank if you want to hit everything with the compressor harder, or you can leave it at 0 dB if your signal's coming in hot enough. How would you know? Well, we've got a handy VU meter here. When the LED is not illuminated, you can see the strength of the signal after the input gain stage. So as I turn this input gain up, watch the VU meter come up here. And with the LED illuminated, the button depressed, you're getting the level post everything headed out of the jacks here. This volume here is the master volume post everything. It is also a mix control. When you hold down the VU button, you get the alternate function. Thank you for printing these. So if you want to do parallel compression, so here's no mix. What if you wanted to do 70% mix and then turn that volume up and get a parallel processing thing? That'd be cool. That's a fun idea. You could do that. We're not going to do it right now. It's a thing you could do. And lastly, the mid-side stuff, which again, I'm so thrilled about. If only for this one thing, and I do a lot of mid-side work in Eurorack land. I use the Geranalog Enhance 2 for this stuff. But if you just take the low end, and the further we rotate this knob counterclockwise, the more it's going to centralize that band into the middle part of the mix. It's going to make it mono, just kind of straight down the middle. And that frees up a ton of space on the sides for the mid and high. And you can really notice this. I'm going to turn the effects, which are coming from the Ghost pedal, which is kind of off screen here. And turn the effects on that Buchla up so that you can turn the reverb up so that you can hear the stereo space expand in these mid and high frequencies as I turn the knob and stop talking. How much wider that is? All right, let me bring these effects back into tasteful ranges. So yeah, I've been enjoying keeping the high bands like really wide and the mid bands just adding a little bit of width there. Now earlier you saw me hold these buttons down to either send those bands to the compressor or not, but they're also handy dandy mute switches. You can mute the individual bands, and this is actually a fun performance effect. That can be fun, but also, the utility of that is to preview the bands on their own and do some work there. Let's hear this. Again, let's just A-B. It's kind of crazy how bad that sounds versus, and everybody's taste is different. This might be a little bit too crispy for your tastes. But to me, like if I'm performing for people in a room, I want them to hear music that sounds more finished than not. It's just that good. And you don't have to use this device as an end of chain pedal or desktop effects box. You could certainly use it any way you like. If you're a bass player, there's a ton of value here. If you're a guitar player, I think there's a ton of value here too. In fact, I was talking with a pedal builder not too long ago about how great it would be to have a mid-side only processor on the pedal board for adding width to time-based effects. There's just nothing like that out there. Well, there is now, and it's this, and I think it's great. One thing we haven't talked about is, and this is really smart, the expression input here can be configured one of two ways. In configuration 1, it is used just as an expression pedal input to control any of the bands. You can assign them positively or negatively, and that's cool enough. But in mode 2, it can be used as a sidechain input, and I just started playing with this today. I haven't completely mastered it yet, but in effect, you can send, let's say, like just the kick drum in here, enable that sidechain envelope follower, and then duck the highs and mids against that kick in your live set so that it punches through. Really smart, really thoughtful. So that's the Golden Master from Endorphins. Like I said, for me, this is my new one-stop shop, end of chain. The last thing I'll say about it is that there's a brick wall limiter in here. So believe it or not, this and this are roughly the same volume. Not exactly, but the difference in perceived volume is tremendous. The difference in actual volume is more or less negligible. And that is because there's a beautiful limiter at the end of this device's DSP, right before the outputs. So you can do whatever you want. You can drive it as hard as you want, and you're not going to overload the PA system, And to me, that's like really the beauty of this thing is you retain so much more control of your dynamics and the sonic integrity of your signal than if you're just kind of like sending your raw stuff back to the board and hoping for the best. If there is a board. Sending your raw stuff to the single JBL Eon speaker from 2008 that is sitting on the floor. But wouldn't you rather it sound like this? Oh, electronic musicians, unite. You're doing great. You're doing great. Keep it up. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you like videos like this, and I'll let this play out for another minute or so, but have an excellent rest of your day. Goodbye.